We're back with the 2024 lead and only 84 days until the November 5th election. We're running the numbers on this race, and you take a look at the 2020 map. What were the states that mattered more than anything else? Well, Joe Biden flipped the state of Georgia, flipped the state of Arizona, but more than anything else, what Joe Biden did is he flipped back the blue wall into Democratic hands, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Why did that matter? Well, let's flip back to 2016. You see all three of those states were red. Georgia also in Trump's column, Arizona as well. So what does that mean going forward? Well, if you want to watch the two campaigns, they'll tell you a lot about what's happening right now. And here's what I mean. Let's take a look at our race to 270. This would be the map if Kamala Harris won all of the states that Joe Biden won in 2020. This would be where things stand, holding on to the blue wall. If you're the Trump campaign, Pennsylvania is absolutely critical. It's why you've seen the former president go there. It's why J.D. Vance will be there later in the week. It's why you'll see a lot of spending as well. Why is it so critical? Well, say Trump flips back Georgia, traditionally a Republican state, and not the entire blue wall, just one of those, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Look at that, 270 electoral votes. Now, if you're Harris and you're looking around right now and saying, well, I'm not sure if I can hold Georgia, the kind of Sun Belt states are very much in question. Take a look at this. Say Harris loses Georgia, loses North Carolina, as Democrats have the last two cycles, loses Arizona, and loses Nevada, but wins Pennsylvania. Guess what? She's at 270 as well. The blue wall is critical here, and that's why new numbers that have been coming out over the course of the last couple of weeks have been so critical. We're going to take a look at one set here, and that's the New York Times Siena College poll. Take a look back at May, when Biden in Pennsylvania was 37-41, Michigan 42-39, Wisconsin 39-40. Now look at Harris in August. Now, granted, still no clear leader. This is all within the margin of error, but the jump from Biden to Harris, 9 points in Pennsylvania, 6 points in Michigan, 10 points in Wisconsin. That is what's giving Democrats real hope that not just the Sun Belt states, which they feel now are very much back in play, unlike they were with Biden, but also that critical blue wall could be a critical component of a Harris coalition to 270. Now, how do you know exactly what campaigns are seeing? Look, clearly, polling is fluid right now. It is a very different race, and everybody's trying to get their head around it. Well, look at where the campaigns are spending. Pennsylvania, $34.6 million for Democrats, $35.3 million for Republicans. Michigan, Wisconsin, huge sums of money going in. Yes, the Sun Belt states, Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, that's big spending as well. Those are very, very swingy states that are very much in play for both campaigns right now. But if you really want to know what matters, the Trump campaign dumping a ton of money into Georgia right now, but both campaigns focused heavily on the state of Pennsylvania. And that's exactly what I want to talk about as I bring my panel back in. Jonah, when you look at the map and you look at kind of all the different pathways to 270 here, it seems like the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is absolutely critical for both campaigns.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you for upholding Jake Tapper's tradition of referring to it as a Commonwealth, which drives me crazy because no one ever called it, Penn Commonwealth University. It's Penn State University, but so be it. Pennsylvania is, for all the reasons you got into, it is basically, it's the exhaust port on the Death Star, to use a Star Wars analogy. Like, it is the key to whichever way you want to go. It's also, one of the things that makes it more interesting than a lot of the other crucial states is demographically, if you win Pennsylvania, odds are you're going to win some other states as well. I mean, I think it was James Carville who first said Pennsylvania is, it's Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with Alabama in between. It's this weird mix of very rural and also very urban, a lot of blacks in Philadelphia. And so, like, if you've come up with a message that takes Pennsylvania for you, you might also carry a bunch of other states as well. And finding that secret sauce is the secret to the election.
And for the record, it's fear of Jake Tapper, which is the only reason that I always say Commonwealth, because he comes down hard.
He does.
He'll let a lot of things slide, but not Commonwealth. To that point, what's interesting, if we dug in a little bit further in the map of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia was not actually that dramatically different between Hillary Clinton and Biden. What was different was the collar counties. It was the suburbs as you push out, where Biden just rolled up massive, massive vote. And I'm interested with what you've seen so far. Do you think the Harris campaign is putting together the type of message that will resonate there?
Yeah, well, I've come from an era of politics where as go Ohio, so goes the nation and my home state, and it's not that anymore. And I
No, and
think
it's sad because
it
that was
is
my
really
excuse to go back
sad.
home to our home state.
It is really sad, and I will make a humble plea that, like, don't give up on Ohio for a couple of reasons, to Jonah's point. So it's not that Ohio will be probably electoral college votes for the vice president. But for Pennsylvania, if you can run up the score in some of those surrounding counties, Delaware County, Bucks County, which looks different than your 1992, even 2016 demographic, who makes up those, the suburban mom is not just your white female soccer mom. It is a very diverse makeup now in those surrounding counties. But if you can do well in those counties, you also probably can do well in some counties in Ohio that will be helpful to Sherrod Brown in the Senate race. So it's a tell on different levels in terms of not just electoral college, but in the governor's race, perhaps maybe it has some trend down to North Carolina for the Cooper Robinson race. It does some tells that can carry over into different components of the race. I think that you will see, there's no surprise that the Harris campaign is spending astronomical amount of money in Pennsylvania. But what you can always tell as a tell for the opponent is now if they're starting to match. I think Donald Trump, before Harris was at the top of the ticket, thought he was a lot safer in PA than he does now. And so his spending has surged in some states. They were hoping they didn't have to spend it.
I mean, they dropped $4 million in North Carolina, which is fascinating.
Which is telling.
Because everybody kind of thought, despite what the
Haven't
Biden
won
folks
it
were saying.
since 2008.
Right, and all of a sudden they had to drop $4 million. We'll see. Obviously, playing defense is the responsible thing to do on some level. Shermichael, you know, this is what's so interesting about the questions about what's the message from the Trump campaign right now. Fracking is a message that you hear the allies talking about. You know, Ashley makes a great point. What Biden did wasn't necessarily keep Trump's vote down in his strongholds. Trump ran up huge votes in the rural areas of the state, in the northern part of the state, in the middle, the Alabama, to quote Carville while also quoting Jonah.
That's how I like it.
And that's how you talk about the fracking issue, which was problematic for Hillary Clinton. It was an issue. It was a position that Kamala Harris had that she, since her campaign has said she no longer holds. That would seem to be a way the Trump campaign could run up vote in those areas.
I mean, look, it's definitely going to be an issue. President Biden increased his margins with working class white voters in 2020 compared to Hillary Clinton in 2016. A pro-Trump super PAC announced a $100 million ad buy over 3 weeks. The campaign, $73 million over 3 weeks. You're looking at $173 million bucks over 21 days. That's $8.2 million a day. That's a substantial amount of money to define the vice president and also her running mate. And also, I would keep in mind that Times Siena poll had some interesting data reflective of 2016 and 2020 that showed that Donald Trump was underestimated by 9 points in 2016, by 5 points in 2020, and his approval ratings are higher at this point than they have ever been in the past. And so if you were to, I guess, estimate, if you will, what those figures suggest about this current data, it is that this race is dead tied, or the former president is at least a point or two potentially ahead of the vice president. And so I think from Republicans, you understand this is a close race, you understand it's a tight race, but you're looking for every single issue you can find to draw that contrast to the folks in Alabama to get them to turn out for your candidate.
And to that point, Jonah, you know, this is the moment where if you're a Democrat, you're saying the last 3 weeks have been great, don't do anything differently until you're forced to do something differently. When are they forced to do something? Obviously, the convention's coming up, but if you're the vice president's team, when are you looking around saying, on the issues of fracking or on the issues of immigration, we need you out talking about this in a kind of proactive, offensive way?
Yeah, look, there are a lot of people who are outraged that Kamala Harris has not given an interview yet, particularly journalists and particularly Republicans. And she should. I think they hit the point of diminishing returns. The second it starts to seem like an issue to people, then they have to start thinking about how they're going to sort of get her out there and expose her more. But it was, you know, whether you think it was right or wrong, it was a smart strategy. This is the most impressive extended honeymoon in a while. And the idea that the persuadable voters are sitting around, you know, in these swing states thinking, gosh, I haven't seen her sit down for 60 minutes yet. I don't know what they're not thinking in those terms. That's a very inside the beltway, very plugged in sort of way of thinking about it. They see her on TV, they see her give speeches, and they think they don't think she's hiding. But at some point, it becomes an issue, and also the stakes of her first interview start going really, really high. Yep. Because if it does become a thing and she screws it up, it's much worse than if she had given 10 interviews and had a couple mistakes in them.
Yeah.
Can I just
Real quick?
real
Yeah,
quick?
real quick.
I think that's a campaign strategy of doing some bracketing when she goes into these local communities doing local press rather than focusing on the national press, because the local press is where you're going to get the swing voters.
Well, and I should note for Michael Tyler and Brian Fallon, don't do 60 Minute. Right here. I will talk anytime. Call me. I'll be on a plane. We will do the interview. It'll be great. I promise. All right. Thank you guys very much.